Hey, it's David Freiburger. I have been on YouTube 1 year. In this video, I'm going to talk to you about some of my experiences and learnings that might help you if you're just getting started. And I'm going to go through my top 10 biggest wins and top 10 worst failures. We'll talk about some of the cars that have come and gone over the past year and have a look into the future. Now we get into the cool car stuff. I am going to talk about my top 10 best videos of all time and my top bottom worst. Let's start with the best. All right, top 10 going from 10 to 1. This is surprising. Number 10 with 651,000 views was the 2023 duct tape drags. That's the event that I have in Tucson, Arizona. There's another one coming up in 2025. It is on October 17th and 18th. You should be there. It's a lot of fun. What's interesting about it is that my second year, 2024 duct tape drags videos didn't do nearly as well. In fact, almost not at all. And I think there's a lesson there also, is that my 2024 episodes came almost a month and a half after the event, and I think it needs to be right after the event. I've often said there's no tomorrow on the internet. People are interested in it at the time, and that's it. I thought they were more evergreen because it's just low butt cars drag racing and they're cool cars to look at, but that didn't work out. Number 2 with 652,000 views is my Route 66 road trip in my 1990 Chevy Suburban. This is the first example you've seen in this video of me just driving around looking at cool stuff, and that one paid off. Number 8, this was a little short video with 670,000 views. It was me exploring L&L Classic Auto in Wendell, Idaho, just walking around and giving fun info and trivia and spotter's guide stuff on old cars in the junkyard. I've done a couple more of those. Some have done really well, some not so much. This one probably worked because the thumbnail said largest classic car junkyard. Number 7, another road trip with 737,000 views. It was when I bought that 69 Chevy C20 pickup for a screaming deal. It was $5,000 and I road tripped it home, and I think it's a popular vehicle that I obviously got a great deal on, and another road trip with me giving trivia and stuff. Number 6, and I'm surprised this one was this low, with 753,000 views, the Rotson road trip with Finnegan. Now, that was a solid episode. When I say I'm surprised it comes in at number 6, it's because I thought that it would go to 1 million. Finnegan's has 1.2 million right now, and that just shows you the example of how my part 2 was not as strong as his part 1. Number 5, probably my best video on the channel. I think you should look at it, even if you don't care about Jeeps, because it was when Rick Payway and I drove a bone stock World War II flat fender Jeep from Phoenix all the way to Key West. And that one has 864,000 views. Interestingly, a lower effort video that I did with Payway has more views, a lot more views. Well, 20,000 more views, 886,000 on the one where Rick and I hopped in my 1971 Jeepster Commando and drove it all around Colorado and Arizona. Apparently Payway is good luck for me in the videos. Number 3, one of the first videos that I posted. I think I posted 2 on my very first day, maybe 3, because I did a channel introduction, which actually I've disregarded here because it was just like 2 minutes of me saying hi. That one that I did in the green Ford Torino wagon from Dave Chappelle's place all the way up in Spokane, Washington, all the way down to LA, just rolled 1 million views. And so that's an example of it took 12 months to get there. Started out slow because my channel was new, but then as people watched other road trip videos, they found that one and it just kept going, and it's got 1 million views. Number 2, I dug this one, my 1970 Dodge Super Bee barn find. That one pretty quickly went to 1.1 million views. And that's that thing where you know that the rescues get the biggest views. And in this case, it was a rare and desirable muscle car, so it went even bigger. It really wasn't a surprise, but I'm happy it's there. Now, my number one video is something I could never repeat. It's the one where I sat right here and talked about the cancellation of Roadkill. And that one got 1.4 million views. So that's my top 10 best. Now, let's go to my bottom 10 worst videos. I'm going to start at 10, and 1 is going to be the biggest failure. So number 10, with 226,000 views, which isn't that bad. It is the one where I talked about the Pomona drag strip and gave the history of it, revealing that it is, in my opinion anyway, and I think factually, the oldest drag strip in continuous operation in the whole country. And for those of you who are going to argue with that, it started in 1952. So try and come up with one that's better than that. Number 9 worst video, and I knew this one would be, 198,000 views, also not terrible. It's the one where I went up to El Mirage Dry Lake and gave you a blow-by-blow of what it takes to race there and go 200 miles an hour on dirt. That is a very niche subject. Not that many people are really interested in land speed racing, so that's why I took that one a really long time to grow. Number 8, 178,000 views. This one comes with a lesson, and you'll see it comes up another couple times. It is the one where I gave the behind the scenes detail of Finnegan, me, and the crew shooting the road trip episode with the Rotson. Every time I've done a behind the scenes, it is tanked. Maybe it's because I released them as extras on Tuesday, or maybe it's because no one cares. Number 7, 168,000. I was not at all surprised that this did poorly. It's the one where the title was Car Guys Ruled the Skies. It was when I went to the Pima Air and Space Museum, showed you a bunch of aircraft, and talked about how they connected to automotive related stuff. I love the history. That one was a light lift for me. It was easy to do, but I dug it, but not a lot of the audience did. Number 6, 167,000 views. My story of the Cheap Thrills Dart. This was a 1968 Dodge Dart that I built in the pages of Hot Rod Magazine in 1994 and 5. And it was really popular at the time, but I think the sort of notoriety of that car has tanked over the past 30 years. And so I think that's why no one cared. You'd have to be really old and a hardcore Hot Rod Magazine reader to care about that. Number 5, this was a DF Extra launched on the wrong day with 158,000 views. It's the one where I hung with my buddy Clay Milliken and he walked you through his Top Fuel dragster. I've noticed that professional drag racing doesn't get tons of views. And I'm sad about that because, as I mentioned earlier, I am a pit reporter and sometimes announcing in the booth for the National Hot Rod Association, and I love it. So I wish that did better. Number 4 worst one ever, 156,000 views. It is the Drag Week behind the scenes with myself, Loans, and KJ Jones. I think that was the first behind the scenes that I did, and it tanked, but I didn't take the clue. Number 3, 153,000 views, How Drag and Drive Got Started. I gave the story of how all of hot rodding has been the quest for who has the fastest street car. And I talked about my personal relationship to all of that type of racing from my early days at Hot Rod. No one cared. 153,000 views. Number 2, little surprised at this one. It's another behind the scenes. It's got 152,000 views. It's the one where I was the announcer at Cletus McFarland's Freedom 500, and I did a behind the scenes video of what it was like. I honestly thought the connection with Cletus would probably make that one go big. It didn't. It's my second worst one ever, 152,000. And my very worst one ever, another extra, another one on Tuesday, 144,000 views. I called it Behind the Scenes at Roadkill and Fast and Loud. It was just me and a buddy, Mikey P, sitting in my truck, driving down to the Motor Trend shop to sort of collect stuff out of it and just chatting about our experiences with those two shows. It's kind of a behind the scenes. I think that's why it didn't work. I did another episode with Mikey P that's actually pretty good with that 73 El Camino 454 SS 4-speed car. So those are my worst videos, probably to be followed closely by this one. There's my biggest fails. Now let's move on to more car guy stuff. I'm going to tell you all about the cars that have come in and gone out since I've been doing YouTube. And it's a lot. Good refresher course on some of the cool stuff that is probably coming up and some stuff you'll never see again. All right, let's talk about the cars that have come in and stayed. First, the 1970 Dodge Super Bee barn find car. That's the one I'm most stoked about working on, and I also haven't touched it in a little while. It's not stored at my house. It's going to take me a bit. I got to finish my 72 Roadrunner, and then I'll get back on that. Next, the 69 C20, the 3/4 ton orange and white pickup truck that I got out of Las Vegas. Then I got 3 vehicles that had been junkyard rescues. I didn't take them from the junkyard. Another guy did. I got a 69 C10 pickup. I got a 1974 Chevy van, and I got a 66 Oldsmobile Cutlass that came in and went out on the same day. Next, I got a 1974 Jeep Cherokee. That's the one that I spotted on Route 66 while I was doing that road trip video, and then brought home, and it was nowhere near as good as I thought it was. And it has now been 3 episodes worth of battle to get it going, but I love the thing. It's actually fantastic. Now, some of the stuff I got from Roadkill. Stubby Bob. You know that one is coming back. The first thing I want to do there is go through the engine. I don't know if I told you that the blown 454 in that thing is locked up, and I don't know why. It threw a rod or broke a crank or something. So I want to pull that out and get to work on it. And Stubby Bob also needs all new suspension and wiring and everything. Next, the Dragway. What year is it? 1974 XJ12 that has a 383 small block and a supercharger on it. And it's got water in the oil. The shifter doesn't work and the brakes don't work. So that thing needs a massive overhaul. I'll eventually get to that. The Super Camaro. Do you remember that one from Roadkill? It is the 73, I think, Camaro that is blue and white. It's got the big wide fender flares on it. It looks so completely 1982 or 1980 kind of era. I still do have that, and it's buried in the back of the warehouse. That's going to be a while. I also got the 1940 Ford 4-door from Roadkill Garage, the real beater rusty car that was shipped to Saudi Arabia and back, and has a 350 small block with a little mini blower on it. Just recently, I got a 1972 Ford F100 4x4. I'm not positive you will have seen that one on the channel by the time this airs. I hope so. I think so. It might even be last week, but that one's coming. And of course, I also bought that Jeepster out of Colorado that Payway and I road tripped. It was a 1971 Jeepster Commando in candlelight yellow. I don't know why, I just like the name of that. So those are all the cars that have come in. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Oh, but the olds is gone. So that's 11 that have come in and stayed. Now let's talk about the 11 that have come in and left. I bought the 41 Ford La Carrera Panamericana car from Roadkill Garage. I thought that was really cool. It had a Ford 306 and a Camaro front clip, but the guy who initially built it for that race kept on nagging me that he wanted to have it back, and I realized it was going to be a long time before I got to the video, so I did sell that to him, so it's back with its rightful owner. Also in and out, the was it a 71? Or a 71 Ford Torino station wagon that was in that very early road trip video, the dark green one. That one I bought, drove it for 8 or 9 days, and sold it before I even got home, and the guy picked it up 2 days later, so that's gone. I had a Toronado that was from the Holden Brothers TV show with Motor Trend. I sort of bought all this stuff as a group buy, and I did a video on basically washing it. And the video did really well, but then I sold the thing. And the same is true of the International Harvester pickup truck, the little short bed that I got from Roadkill Garage. Another video where essentially I just washed it, but 300,000+ people watched it, and I ended up selling that. I also bought a Studebaker from Roadworthy Rescues, and that one never was in any video related to me, not on TV, not on YouTube. I just got it, flipped it. And by the way, all of these I try and sell at a really reasonable price so that other people can sort of have the benefit of having a cool old project car. I make money on them, but I'm selling them under market value. Next, my 68 Camaro. That was the budget beater makeover, and I gave that car away in a sweepstakes at Christmas time last year. It was actually a really cool car, 6-cylinder, had been on the street forever, but I did get rid of that one. And then the 73 El Camino. That was a roadkill garage project. It was an SS454 4-speed, and Mikey P and I split that on a purchase, did a video on it. Actually, he did too. Mikey P's channel is called Saturday Garage. Go check that out. And we both did videos on it and then flipped that one as well. That's the one that I probably did sell for market value. I think we got 9,500 bucks for it. So those are all the cars that came in and then went out. Here's some other cars that have gone out since I've been doing YouTube, and they're ones that I owned before. Turns out there's only 2 of them. My 56 F100, the orange truck that was on an episode of Roadkill, and my 2023 Challenger that just left the fleet yesterday. It was another giveaway that I did in a sweepstakes. Let me address another question that comes up all the time. And people want to know how I deal with my fleet of cars. Right now, I don't know how many I have. It's more than 50, less than 55. People want to know, how do I store them and how do I insure and register them all? Well, they are stored all over the place, even out of state. I've got a warehouse, 2 storage garages, a buddy's storage garage, Rick Payway, who I'm mooching from, Hot Rod Ranch. I have them all over the place, but it's stupid. My rent payment every month is like a mortgage. And that's the reason I am going to have to get rid of some of this stuff. And I've said that for years, but it really needs to happen. I'm going to have some tough love and get rid of some cars I don't want to get rid of. As far as registration and insurance, I've only got about 5 registered and insured. The rest of them are either on non-operation status, or I've just never even taken the paperwork to the DMV, and therefore they are not insured to drive. So that's how I deal with that. Now, what about the future for my channel? One of the things that's come up a lot is people asking me to do a podcast, because obviously I can sit and talk almost forever, and I can do it on subjects that are probably more interesting than I've covered in this episode. Stuff that requires research, stuff like that one that I did on airplanes and their connection to cars. So here's a couple things about that. First of all, I'm not going to do a dedicated podcast that just shows up on podcast channels. I don't think there's money in it. I've got other things I need to do with my time. One thing I might do is, if I can get ahead of my video production, and that's not happening right now. I kicked off the channel with 17 episodes in the can, and I'm now down to none. I'm working week to week and trying to get ahead of that. And so I don't have time to do a podcast. But if I do, I have a plan. I think that I will put sort of the pilot for it here on my main channel, probably as an extra, and just see how well it does. But then I know that people who put podcasts on their main channel end up tanking that main channel. They just get mixed in with stuff, and people don't always want to see the podcast. So what I'll probably do is start a second channel of blower side chats, I guess. I don't really have a name for it. And so that's my plan. And the podcast would be no guests, because I don't have time to work that out, to coordinate it, and to do the technology behind it. So it'll just be me. And I think what I'll do, you can tell I've thought this through a little bit, is an editorial section. When I was at the magazines, I would write an editorial column every single month, and I would have something to say. So I'd probably start with sort of an editorial about what's going on currently in the gearhead world, or an opinion about things. After that, I'll probably answer a couple of viewer questions. Then I'll probably give a little bit of a history bit, and then at the end, talk about what I've got coming up on the main channel. So let me know if that's something that you'd like to see. It needs to be at least 150,000 views on every single one of them in order to make that worth it. The other thing that I have wanted to do since day one is basically a knockoff of Engine Masters. I learned so much dyno testing things A, B, sometimes ABC, sometimes ABA. We learned a lot on the Engine Masters show, and I would like to be doing that again. It is an expensive proposition because you have to have engines, you have to have parts, and you have to have production, but it's also something that's very sponsorable. And so eventually I'd like to do that. I think if I could pull off one a month on the channel, that'd be really good because I could spend a week on the dyno and shoot 3 or 4 of them and then ladle them out over the coming months. So that's another thing that I would like to do. I also need to figure out what my car priorities are. As you may have noticed, I am very distracted by cars. I'll buy something and I'll love it, but it's my shiny object for that week, and then something else will come up. So I'll sell another one over here and then buy another one. Now, I think that's just what car guys do. There's a lot of people like me who just like to buy cars and sell them. And, I have a lot of stuff that I've kept for 20, 30, 40 years. And so it's not like I'm just a flipper, but I do get distracted and I don't really like any one car. I like a variety of types and styles and function and drag racing and autocrossy stuff, even though I haven't done as much of that as I want. 4x4s, off-road things. Here's sort of my thought process on that is that I'll buy a car, and as I pointed out earlier, part 1, 2, 3 doesn't tend to work that well for me. So if I get a car, like let's say my 1972 Roadrunner or my Cherokee, and I do multiple parts on it, they kind of get progressively fewer views. Maybe I'm not doing stuff that's wild and crazy enough. I'm just sort of working as a regular guy in his driveway trying to make the cars better. Maybe that's not interesting enough. So the question is, can I continue to do project cars like that? Or does every video have to be one car in, one car out? That's what Tony Angelo used to do. He was building wild and crazy complete cars in every single episode and finally got to the point where he realized that wasn't sustainable. So that is sort of a dilemma for me. I like to have new cars. When a deal comes up, I like to buy it and make a video about that. But I recognize I need to get more organized and have sort of a priority. And number one for me right now is that Barn Find Super Bee. But I also know that I have to finish my 72 Roadrunner that's in the driveway right now before I can really get into that. If you have cars that you specifically are dying to see on the channel, comment. I know that I can't take that as gospel. It's like, oh, this guy said that he wants to see the General Mayhem, so I got to do that. But it helps you sort of get a feel for things. And I will bring that up. If you're starting a new channel, or even if you're just on social media, you don't want to take comments as gospel, because anybody who's following you and commenting almost inherently likes you. So you'll get a whole lot of positive comments, even if what you're doing is not going to go mainstream and be big. The other thing I warn about is that there's always going to be 5, 6, or 10 comments that just brutally bash you. And you focus on those, even though there's another, 180 positive comments. You tend to focus on the negative and you start to beat yourself up about it. You got to realize that you're never going to please everybody. And one of the things I did when I started the YouTube channel is I committed to myself I would never respond to a hater. It's going to drive them nuts and it's going to make me feel better. I'm not going to waste my time with them. And so that's something I would encourage you to do as well. More stuff for the future, more road trips. I'm going to do those as often as I can because they're the ones that get the most views. I'm also going to work on more collaborations of, here's how we've worked that out actually is, I've talked to Tony Angelo about this. Get together for a week, shoot one episode for his channel, one for mine, and they're not about each other or interlinked at all. They're not part 1, part 2. They're just 2 separate videos. I'm helping him, he's helping me. It works out. So you're going to see more of that coming up. I've talked about it with Tony and with Derek and with Finnegan and Chappelle. And of course, I would do anybody else who's sort of from our old gang of cronies. Let's get into it here. And I'm going to talk about what I have learned over the past year on YouTube. And I think it'll probably help you out. I get a ton of people who ask me about advice on how to get going and how to make it. Well, this is going to be my best attempt at that. Before I get into that, I do want to make a self-promotional plug. I've learned that what I'm doing these days is making a little bit of money in a lot of places instead of my whole salary in one place. And one of the things I'm doing for that is selling merchandise. So if you want Gasoline Forever stuff, if you want firing order stuff, if you want t-shirts of most of my cars, I also have Don't Get It Right, Just Get It Running t-shirts. Check out my website, shop.davidfreiburger.com. The link is in the description of every video that I put out, and every sale helps me a bunch. So there's the last plug that you're going to see in this episode. Oh, I take that back. Also, I want to promote that the duct tape drags with the Battle of the Beaters and the Vice Grip Garage Burnout Pit is coming back to Tucson Dragway October 17th and 18th. The 18th is the big day. The link to register or to show up and spectate is also in my description. Okay, now all the self-promotion is out of the way, let's get into talking about YouTube. First of all, there are people who have followed me very closely who know that the last year on YouTube is not my only year on YouTube. I think I've been on here like 12 years. It goes way, way back. But in that time, I had only posted, I don't know, 10 or 15 videos, something along those lines. I really only started it in earnest with drops every single week on August 22nd, 2024. So this is, in fact, my very first year. And here's the thing that I always ask is share the channel with a friend. You know, a lot of people go through the routine in every YouTube video of like, subscribe, comment, ring the bell. And, you know, I've done that too. It's no big deal, but I think it's just virtually silent to the audience at this point. And so the thing I always say is please share my videos or my channel with a friend, and that's going to help me grow. The other thing I'll say is because of your enthusiasm, my views to subscribers ratio is really good. A lot of people want to talk about how many subscribers they have because they can show off with that and it helps get sponsorships. But in truth, it doesn't matter. The thing that you want is views and watch hours. That's the number one thing. And so I have, I don't know what it is right now, 475,000 subscribers or something, but many of my videos exceed that in views, which would be normal, but still my view to subscriber ratio is good, and that helps out a lot. I think that that shows YouTube that you've got the engagement that you need and that people click through and watch your videos, and that helps them share the videos with more and more people. I'll talk more about that as we go along. Let's discuss sort of what my philosophy is for the channel and what makes me different. The deal is, these days, in order to get views, everybody wants to do the wildest, craziest car builds and stunts. And I'm over all of that stuff too. You know, we did a lot of it on Roadkill, but honestly, it didn't even match some of the things that these really wealthy YouTubers are doing, just that are crazy. I just made the decision that I don't want to compete with that. I am running this thing solo. I don't have a bunch of employees. I don't have a shop. I don't have a bunch of land. And honestly, I don't even have the desire to do some of that super crazy stuff. We did it on Roadkill, but not even to the level that some of these wealthy guys are doing at this point. And I've got a little bit of a different philosophy for what I'm doing here personally. And that is, I think, I'm doing regular guy stuff. I work on my back in my driveway. I don't have a shop. I'm not dealing with super expensive parts, although working with cars is just expensive these days. I do have a lot of cars. It's more than 50 right now. That's going to have to come down because what I'm paying in storage all over the place is nuts. You know what? I'm going to tell you all about the cars later in the episode and we'll get deeper into that. But so I was saying that I have, low buck stuff, working in my garage, road trips. I think that people really like. My unique shtick on those is to look at old gas stations, abandoned cars, junkyards, neat old stuff that's sort of a tangent to automotive. I think people are digging on that. So history is sort of my spin. Even when I'm working on cars, I'm also giving you the history of stuff. Now that's a little bit quiet. It's not headline news. It's not 100% unique, but it tends to be what people seem to like me for. So that's my spin. And the other thing is I will be bringing some well-known cars to you. I'll be bringing some of the roadkill stuff back, and I think that will be an attraction as well. The other thing that goes on these days is the whole vehicle rescue. Find a vehicle either in a junkyard or one that's been abandoned forever and get it running and driving and drive it home. I have been doing that since the mid-90s. And it's not like I'm the first person to do it. It's gone on since time began. But as far as media goes, I was doing that in the pages of Four Wheel and Off-Road magazine alongside Rick Payway. We called it Dead Tours or Dirt Every Day because we would get vehicles going and we would drive them on dirt as far as we could for an adventure. And that's really where all of that started for me. And it's really how Roadkill developed when Hot Rod Magazine wanted more videos on their website, and that turned into Roadkill, which was on YouTube, which turned into the TV show. There I go talking about Roadkill when I promised you that I wouldn't. But that's how that show started, was with rescues. In particular, I think that you saw the 64? Or was it a 65? No, it was a 66 Buick convertible. Boy, my memory is shot. That Buick convertible, the Buick Special that we rescued even before Roadkill, sort of set the tone for those types of videos. And now everyone is doing them. And I don't think I can be unique or attract an audience by being just part of that noise. Let's be honest, Derek from Vice Grip Garage has owned that space, and his radical success is why you're seeing it across a zillion other channels. Now, I will still do it, but I'm doing it sort of at my own leisure or when I feel like it. It's not a mission to do it in every single episode. It's still what I enjoy, but it's just not going to be every video. Now that brings up another thing that makes me a little bit unique, and it's really a downside. And that is that I like a big variety of stuff. I do road trips. I do wrenching in my driveway. I do walking around junkyards talking about cars. And recently, I even did sort of a history piece on the connection between automotive and aircraft. That one tanked. And so it's what I'm interested in doing. It's also what sticks to the screen because I figured that you have to have a video every single week. That's sort of what the algorithm wants. It's what the audience wants. It's easy to forget about you if you don't do that. And so occasionally I have done videos that are minimum effort, but they at least get a video live this week. And if you've really got your antenna up, I think you'll notice that that's what this is right here. I have a lot of stuff going on right now. I was working on a car that ended up breaking on me more than I expected, my 72 Roadrunner, and the video that I had planned for this week just couldn't get done. Anyway, that variety of episodes actually hurts me because what YouTube wants is basically the same video every week. They want that predictability. They want your audience to know that they can come back for the content that they love. Look at Derek. He does the vehicle rescue almost every time. Not always, but he tries. I follow this account that is called The Charismatic Voice. It's way off the normal for me. It is this lady who reviews songs and talks about how the singer is singing. And it's fascinating to me because I don't understand anything about music, and she does the like heavy metal stuff that I like, and it gives me even deeper appreciation for the singers that I dig. And so I look at that fairly frequently. It's also the only thing that I watch on YouTube, and I probably miss most of the episodes. But back to the point, she releases the same video every single time, and I know what I'm going to get when I go there, and that's what YouTube wants. So me doing the variety isn't the greatest thing, and you can actually see that reflected in my numbers. That's another thing that I'll get to in a moment. Here's some other things to think about if you're just getting started on YouTube. What day and time do you launch? Here was my thought process on this, and I have no idea if it's correct or not, because I have always dropped on Thursdays at 3 p.m. Pacific time. I don't know if that's right, but the reason that I did it is that most of my friends who do this automotive video stuff, they drop on Friday afternoon or Saturday or Sunday. Finnegan drops Sunday mornings. And so I just wanted to get ahead of them a little bit so that I didn't get lost in sort of the gang of new videos that came out in the weekend time. I have no idea if that's the best thing, but that's how I made my decision. And I hope that you'll remember to come back to me every week at that time. Here's one that kind of surprised me about doing PR for my YouTube channel, and that is that social media helps almost not at all. Like, it's almost not worth me posting. The thing is, Facebook, Instagram, and Threads, which is what I'm on, I don't do TikTok, those outlets recognize when you are promoting something and they absolutely shut off the post. I'm not sure you're aware that when you follow someone on any of those platforms, you are not shown everything that they post. Facebook, Meta, actually decides what they want you to see, and that's what they feed you. The only way to see every post is to visit the main account page. And because they just shut off anything promotional, I will end up getting only like a couple hundred likes and 24 comments on my promotions for videos. And that just doesn't lead to views, especially when you consider that the people who are seeing that and who are commenting are already my core fans and probably already see what's going on there. It is extremely rare that a YouTube promotion goes big on social. And so if you've got a social following, don't count on that in order to make your channel huge. And just as an aside, t-shirt promotions also get completely shut down. Now, the best thing that you can do is post videos on YouTube. That's the way you end up growing there, is by people on YouTube already seeing your stuff, liking it, following it. Let's talk about YouTube Shorts, which are kind of the same as Instagram or Facebook Reels. You know, they're shorter 30, 60, 1-minute videos. And they're really a different audience than the people who watch long form videos. And you kind of have to pick a lane and stick with it. The things I've read, I don't know if this is a fact, is that shorts draw such a different audience with a low attention span that you don't want to clog your subscribers with those people because they won't watch your long form video. And one of the worst things you can have is a ton of subscribers that are not engaging with your videos. You don't want that. So you have to decide, do you want to make bank off of shorts or long-term videos? And I chose long form. Let me give you an example. I was doing shorts before I launched full-time with long form video. And I did one about, what does STP mean? By the way, scientifically treated petroleum. I'm talking about the engine oil additive, not Stone Temple Pilots or standard temperature and pressure. But that, for whatever reason, went huge. I have 4.5 million views on that short. You know how much money I made off of that? $830. 4.5 million views. So they don't really pay. Now, the upside is I did gain 8,400 subscribers. I can only hope that those are people who are in fact following me and watching my long form videos. So for me, currently, I'm not doing shorts. However, I do occasionally do a thing that I call a DF Extra. That means Thursdays at 3, I drop long form video, but a few times I have dropped a video on Tuesday at 3. Usually those videos are either shorter, or they're sort of a tangent, or they're something I don't think is going to get a whole lot of views, so I just add those. And sure enough, they really don't get a lot of views. They are my lowest performing videos, maybe because of the time of day, maybe because of subject matter, but they help carry my numbers through the week. For example, I will launch on Thursday and see a pretty good spike in audience and subscriptions and money and everything else. And then it pretty much plummets until the next video on Thursday comes along. If I do a Tuesday extra, I see that Monday and Wednesday are sort of filled in. So the channel stays going with more views and more watch hours than it otherwise would. So I think the extras are ultimately worth it. But the thing is, if anybody is scanning all the videos in your channel, and you know people do this, if you're in marketing, if you're at one of the aftermarket companies that's judging a influencer or content creator, usually you scan their videos and you go, oh, this guy's averaging 500,000 views. But if you look at my channel, you're like, huh, every like month or so, this guy only gets 150,000 views and the rest are getting 300,000. He's just not consistent. And it's true. So you have to judge whether it's worth it to launch those extra videos that get lower views. And now, collabs. You know what this is? It's when you get together with another YouTube guy or gal and you end up doing an episode with each other. And there's a couple ways this can go. I have done them with my Motor Trend cronies. I've got Payway, obviously, he's not really a Motor Trend TV guy. I've got Dave Chappelle, Mike Finnegan, and I'm talking about doing it with Tony Angelo and, of course, with Derek. And so the question is, do you do a completely separate video with that person? Or what I did with Finnegan on our Rotson road trip is it's two parts of the same story. You had to go from his channel to mine to see both parts. So let me start at the collab where you join somebody else on your channel. That seems to work. If you look through, for example, Dave Chappelle's channel, you'll see that when he's done stuff with Derek, it spikes. And absolutely that's all true with Finnegan's channel. And the same thing happens with Tony. And so doing collabs like that with people who you know your audience likes, they can cause spikes, and I will end up doing more of those. But that also leads into the discussion about whether you're going to do two-part episodes. And here's the thing about that. I have found that whether it's just me on my own channel or whether it's a split on two channels, two-parters always end up with the second part getting fewer views. When I do it on my own channel, I think what happens is that people think they've already seen the video, and so they just tune out or they don't click on it. Either that, or there's obviously going to be a segment of people who didn't even like the first video, so why should they go to the second one? The worst scenario is what I did with Finnegan. He posted the first half of our Rotson trip. I posted the second half. So think about what we're asking people to do. And by the way, they were 4 days apart. So what we're asking people to do is watch Finnegan's video and then remember that there's a second half. Come back 4 days later to a different channel and watch the next part. It's just too many steps. It's just asking people to remember too much. And even if they were to launch on the same day, you're still asking a person to leave one channel, find another one, and find the right video. And so I think that kind of two-parter doesn't work. And in my experience, two-parters on my own channel don't work either. Thumbnails and titles. Apparently, this is about the most important thing that you can do with your video, and I'll go through it really quickly because you can Google this stuff. My knowledge of it has not been proven. First thing is YouTube gives you a tool where you can put up as many as 3 thumbnails and have them judge them by issuing them out to people, showing them to the audience, and they'll tell you which one is the most popular. Well, in my case, if I put up 3, the results always come back 33%, 33%, 33%. It's non-definitive. If I put up 2, it's 50-50. Happens every time. I don't bother with it anymore. I use my intuition and just make the thumbnail. One time, only once, did I ever watch my views, realize that they were low, and change the thumbnail and then have the video take off. I have heard people say that that happens. It's only worked for me one time. Matt King, who used to be the editor of CarCraft magazine back when I was in charge of those things, he texted me at one point a couple months ago and said, "Dude, I'm looking at your thumbnails and it's just like CarCraft magazine in like 1999. And it is, because I have such a magazine background, I think of the thumbnail as a cover blurb. And you gotta tell people what the thing is about. You gotta be a little bit over the top with it. And then in the title, I don't use the same words because I figure you've got 2 opportunities to grab them. And if people watch both or read both, you might as well use more concepts and more hook words in order to entice them to click on the video. The other thing that you don't want to do is overpromise in the video and then underdeliver on the actual content. Let's talk about the money part of it. And I'm not going to reveal how much I'm making here. I just think that's not cool. But I will tell you, the money that you make off YouTube is completely unpredictable. You can put up 2 hour-long videos with the same engagement, same views, same watch hours, and make radically different money. It depends on the time of year and how many ads are placed and how many ads are targeted towards your material. And so you can't guess. I will tell you that winter is the better time for advertising revenue. And the reason is more people are watching. By the way, winter is also the best time for views, and it's the holidays, so more people are shopping. Here's another thing. You can have a video that kind of tanks, and it still goes in the bank and it still gets views kind of forever. I have learned that your library of old videos really is a significant amount of your payment month to month. It's not just the video you drop this month, it's everything that you've ever posted. So building a library has a lot of merit. The other thing I learned is that longer videos are better business. They just pay more and they often get more views. Now, I get a bunch of people who comment to me and say, your videos are way too long. I'm not going to watch anything more than 15 minutes. Keep them short. Or they'll say, break this up into 3 or 4 parts so that I can see it in shorter segments. Well, there's a couple things about that. First, the data says those people are wrong. Now, that might be their viewing habit, but overall, you're going to do better with longer videos. Like I said, they typically get more views. The other reason that they're wrong is even if I've got a video that's an hour long, you can chop it up into however many pieces that you want, because let's say you watch it for 5 minutes and then you come back to it 3 days later, YouTube remembers where you left off, so you can just keep watching. It's not that hard. Here's the thing about long videos. If you have an hour-long video with 50,000 views, you are going to make more money than if you have a half-hour video with 100,000 views. It's that drastic. And it's all about watch hours because people will watch it longer. Now, my videos only get about 37 to 40% completion rate when they're really long. And when they're short, they'll get more like 50 to 55% completion rate. But it's still more hours with the longer video and fewer people. So that is what I would encourage if you're starting out on YouTube. And it's hard to do, but it pays more than twice as much. A half-hour video at the same views as an hour, it pays more than twice as much. The last thing I've figured out on money is that the real revenue comes from sponsors. When I first launched my channel, I did not want sponsors. I didn't want any responsibility to anybody. I didn't want to have to send reports and worry about whether I was delivering, because if I'm going to have a sponsor, I'm going to do everything I can to over-deliver for that company. Now, I have had some sponsors, specifically WireCare, CRC, and Holly. Those were all on the Rotson video. They all came through Mike Finnegan. I have to thank him incredibly much for that. I have not had sponsors on any other video. I probably will, so that's probably going to come, but I will only get sponsors from products that I really trust. And I think that's important for credibility and authenticity for anybody on YouTube. Now let's move on to production. This is something all kinds of people ask me about, is how do you make your videos? Are you alone? How do you shoot them? What camera do you use? Well, it's really a solo effort. I'm the only guy. Often I will have my son shooting with me, and people ask about him all the time because in videos it's usually pretty obvious that somebody else is shooting for me if there's camera motion or things like that. My son doesn't want to actually be on camera, and I encourage him not to be, just so he's not recognized in public or attracting attention. Different families will have different views on that, but for me that's just been a thing, is keeping my private life private. Sometimes he helps me. Rarely I will hire camera crews in order to help me out. Examples of that were obviously when Finnegan and I went on that Rotson road trip, we had Chris Reed and Ryan Crosley with us. I've hired Chris to do my Super Bee video where I rescued that one out of the barn. Alex Scola shot one for me once. These are all guys who were on the Roadkill team back in the day. And I think that might be it. So most of my production is me, an iPhone 15 Pro Max, 15 Plus Pro Max, whatever they call it, and a couple of GoPros, sometimes as many as 4. My absolute arch nemesis is audio. Man, that has been difficult. I have 2 Tentacle Track E lav mics. You can see the bump right there where I'm wearing it. And I have had trouble with cable connections. And one time I shot an entire video and it was so bad on the audio, I had to throw it away. One time I did one of these sit down videos in my garage, and it also was trash, and I had to redo the whole talk, which I can't stand. Once I've done some work, I don't want to do it again. So audio's been a problem for me. If you've got suggestions, drop them in the comments. I don't want to wear one of those little clip-on things that you see. I don't want to hold one of those tiny mics that people use. I want a lav mic, but there's got to be a better solution. I do have 2 iPhones. I have another older iPhone that I will occasionally use when my main one fills up and shuts off. Oh, that's another thing. Man, when GoPros just shut off midstream, or sometimes the phone will do that too, it is frustrating. So anyway, all by myself, iPhone, GoPros, and I do have editors. You can see their name in the credits at the end of every episode. I do not edit myself at all. And I just made that decision because it's too time consuming. It's something I would rather pay for. The problem with it is that I need to package videos, which takes a long time, and get them out to the editors a couple weeks in advance. I'm not a guy who can go back to the hotel room and just bang it together. All right, that's me talking endlessly to fill in time this week on YouTube. Like I say, it sticks to the screen. I would really appreciate it if you would share the channel, buy my merchandise. The link is in the description, as is the link to be at the Duct Tape Drags, October 17th and 18th in Tucson, Arizona. Be there, and I'll see you next time with a video about wrenching or road tripping or something on the David Freiburger channel.